Okay? When we talk about faith, we have to go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And the Bible repeats their names. He's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So we want to go back and know, how did God deal with them? How did they walk with God? And so maybe we can learn something from the process that will help us to run our race today. Okay, that's what this is all about. You got to find a way to run our race by faith. I just remember the very first sermon I ever preached. It was on doing God's will, God's way. You can't do God's purpose any other way. You've got to do it the way God has designed for you to do it. And Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are illustrating for us both the mistakes and the right way to serve God, to walk with God. Because God had to redirect them and say, yeah, I know you were this way, but I got to redirect you to do the right thing, to do it the right way. Because the way you serve me, the way you walk with me is not the same way that you serve and work with, other people. It's a different thing. Okay? Today we are looking at this title here, is the future is in the past, is what we're going to talk about today. And you're going to be asked, saying, well, what kind of title is that? How can the future be in the past? If you want to go to the future, you move forward, right? If you want to go past, which nobody wants to do, then you start heading backwards. But sometimes the future, our future, actually lies in the past. And we're going to look at how that plays out today, okay? And to do that, we're going to focus on the book of Genesis chapter 32. Okay? Jacob is now going back after the fight with his uncle Laban. He's now going back to Beersheba, where his dad and his mom are. And a lot of things begin to happen on his way. And we said last week that Jacob has continued with his MO. The MO being, gotta use people, gotta manipulate them, gotta maneuver situations, you gotta deceive them, you gotta take what is not yours. Somehow, anyhow you succeed is good, so long as you succeed. The end justifies the means. That has been Jacob's MO. But God is teaching him little by little, Jake, this doesn't work. So today, we're going to see what happened to Jacob, because there's something, even though he and his mom had designed to deceive their father, Isaac, to run away from a bad situation that he caused or they caused. He goes on this journey, but this journey is more than just that. It's more than just to give Jacob safety. It's more than getting him away from his brother Esau. God is going to accomplish something greater. Something really fundamental in the life of Jacob. That's what he's going to do. So he's on his way back. And let's see what happens to him. In Genesis chapter 32, we read, Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, this is God's camp. Remember the first time he says, this is the gate of heaven, when he saw the ladder. So he called the name of the place Mahanaim. And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau, his brother, in the land of Seir. Oh, God. The country of Edom. By the way, Esau founded Edom. Instructing them, thus shall you say to my Lord Esau. Wait a minute. You're going to say this to my Lord Esau? Thus says your servant Jacob, I have sojourned with Laban and stayed until now. I have oxen, donkeys, flocks, male servants, female servants. I have sent to tell my Lord in order that I may find favor in your sight. This is Jacob talking to Esau. Sent messengers to Esau, right? And the messengers returned to Jacob saying, we came to your brother Esau and he's coming to meet you. Isn't that exciting? The one whose birthright you took away, the one whose blessings you took away by deceiving your dad, he's coming to meet you. Isn't that exciting? Jacob, time to get excited. And he's not coming alone. There are 400 men with him. Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. He divided the people who were with him and the flocks and the herds and camels into two camps. Smart guy, very great strategist. Thinking, if Esau comes to the one camp and attacks it, then the camp that is left will escape. You gotta trust Jacob for strategies, right? Wow. And Jacob said, okay. Oh God, my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, O Lord, who said to me, return to your country and to your kindred, and that I may do you good. I'm not worthy of the least of all the deeds of steadfast love and all the faithfulness that you have shown to your servant. For with only my staff I crossed this Jordan, and now I have become two camps. Please deliver me from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him. Yeah, you got a reason, that he may come and attack me. And listen to his voice, listen to his words here. It's getting really emotional. He may come and attack me, the mothers with the children. But you said, I will surely do you good, and make your offspring as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude. So he stayed there that night, and from what he had with him, he took a present for his brother Esau. Here are the stuff he's going to give him: 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 milking camels and their calves, 40 cows and 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. These he handed over to his servants, every drove by itself, and said to his servants, pass on ahead of me and put a space between drove and drove, right? Don't let them all go all together. There'll be a reasonable amount of space between them, okay? He instructed the first, when Esau my brother meets you and asks you, to whom do you belong? Where are you going? And whose are these ahead of you? Then you shall say, they belong to your servant Jacob. They are a present sent to my lord Esau. And moreover, he is behind us. He likewise instructed the second and the third and all who follow the droves. You shall say the same thing to Esau when you find him, and you shall say, moreover, your servant Jacob is behind us, for he thought, I may appease him with the present that goes ahead of me, and afterward I shall see his face. Perhaps he will accept me. So the present passed on ahead of him, and he stayed that night in the camp. Wow. And this is Jacob. Now I'm going to ask you a question. What things scare you the most? What things in your past scare you the most, keep you uncomfortable at night? You can't sleep. Maybe what you did to someone several years ago, 20, 30, 50 years ago, who knows? No, we're not that old. Or what someone did to you. Something scares you. Your past life of sin, or maybe some painful experience of some sort in the past, something in your family history that just makes it difficult for you to move ahead in life. A young lady, a single mom, remembers everything that happened to her when she was a kid, how her mom abandoned her and all kinds of things happened to her. Now, all she's worried about, all she's concerned about is, I want to raise my daughter, I want to protect her, I want to suffocate her basically with care and protection so that she never has the experiences that I had. Right? And it's a great thing to be protective of our children. It's a great thing to shower them with care and all of that. This is great. We're supposed to do that. But to do so out of fear, out of avoidance, you don't want whatever happened to you 20 years ago, whatever, to happen to them today. To do so out of avoidance, out of fear, it's reactive rather than proactive. Because here, it basically shows that this young woman is still enslaved to the past. In a way, her future is trapped in the past. She's stuck in the past because she's not living right now to do what is right for today. She's only doing, I just don't want that to happen to me. Whatever happened, no, I don't want that to happen. And will this child go to school away from you? No, I want to get admission to a school where she's going to be right there with me, where they have daycare right there in college. I've got to be there all the time with this child, otherwise she might get in trouble. Scared her. It's the past. Being enslaved to the past, being stuck in the past. You know, some people stopped growing in the past. When something happened to them, they stopped. Their development, their growth stopped right there. And developmental psychologists say something about, you know, when that happens to people, when people grow up too fast, they never had a time to be kids, to live their normal lives. What happens when they turn 30, they are still 30, or maybe they're 3 or 4 or 5 in a 30-year or 40 or 50-year-old body. And so sometimes you find grown-up people acting like kids because they're trying to reach down to the past to live the past that they were never able to live. And until that happens, they're going to find it difficult to grow, to become whom they're expected to be today. Stuck in the past. They can't seem to make any progress. Occasionally, when they forget the past, it's like, oh, well, life is good. But any little thing happens, brings up that past experience again, they go right down. They revert right back to that. It is true, you can't fix the past. I mean, to the point of making it to never have happened, you can't do anything about it. But somehow, you're going to need to resolve it. You're going to need to come to terms with that past so you can get past it, so you can grow past it, you know, so that you are not interpreting every present challenge in light of whatever happened 20, 30 years ago. You've got to move forward, and we've got to move forward. Jacob has to move forward, but the problem with Jacob is that he's still stuck in the past. He has not resolved the issue that he needed to resolve. And that's why I say sometimes, for some people, the future is really in the past. And they've got to go back. Yes, go forward through the past, so to say. That's what they need to do. Okay? And when your future is stuck in the past, the only way forward is what? Is the way backward. You got to deal with that. Otherwise, nothing happens. So, question for you: what do you do when you've got to, when you need to confront your past? What do you do? When you see or remember the person that you need to forgive or the person that needed to forgive you in the past, what do? You needed to ask for forgiveness from them in the past, but you never did it. It's been several years. What do? You try to play some old tricks? Try to hide? Or do you genuinely acknowledge your errors? You acknowledge that you were wrong to them? Do you do that? Do you genuinely now surrender to God and say, God, I messed up in the past. I don't know how to handle it, but right now I want to deal with it. I rely on you to orchestrate the experience, orchestrate this encounter so that I can handle it in a good way. You got to move forward. It's time to go back to the future. It's time. Yes, it's time to move forward through the past. But one thing that I want to say, the one way, when you try to handle the past, when you want to deal with the past, let's say one thing. The old tricks won't work. Whatever you did in the past won't work. Whatever thought or behavior patterns that got you in trouble in the first place are insufficient to get you out of them. They are. You've got to do something different. See, Jacob is on his way back to Beersheba, obviously has some genuine concerns about his brother. Yes, he ought to have concerns because he did some bad stuff to him. Right? He's going to meet with Esau. He's going to meet with his past, waiting for him along the way. And he needs that. If he doesn't meet with Esau, he's never going to grow. Just like if you never confront the past that's so painful to you, if you never face up to it, you're not going to grow. You're going to get stuck wherever you stopped in the past. Esau could attack him, attack his family, take his flocks. But what does Jacob do? He sends emissaries to him. Let me send people over there. And by the way, I'm going to send gifts along with them too. Right? He calls Esau my Lord, my master. I'm your servant. That's a message he sends to the other guys. He gives this message to his servants to give to Esau. Say to my Lord, tell him that he's servant. Jacob is being humble. Is this genuine? Because he finds himself in a bind. And the trick won't work. He's done running. He can't run anymore. But here's the problem though. While he's recognizing his problem, while he's recognizing Esau's going to kill me, I'm not sure he's realizing, hey, he really has a right to be mad at me. He doesn't seem to be facing that. All he's caring about right now is his safety. I want to be safe. And by the way, I want to be safe. I know I want everything to be safe, but if it comes to it, I'm willing to lose everything so I can be safe from Esau. That's what's going on here. But as we said, he's a master strategist, he's a manipulator. He's not dealing with the issue. What he does is to divide up his people and his possessions into camps. And, Esau, I know him. He might attack the first one. At least I'll have the second one safe. Right? Wow. If he destroys the first batch, the second will be safe. This is Jacob still trying to manipulate situations, still trying to solve problems according to his old MO. But then he had a better but short-lived, idea. Yeah, I can't fight Esau alone. I got to pray. Okay. They come back to him and say, 400 men are coming with him. It's time to pray. I got to pray. Here's what Jacob did. And Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham and God of my father Isaac, O Lord, who said to me, return to your country and to your kindred, that I may do you good. I'm not worthy of the least of all the deeds of steadfast love and all the faithfulness that you have shown to your servant. For with only my staff I crossed this Jordan, and now I have become two camps. Everything he says so far is true. Please deliver me from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear that he may come and attack me and the mothers with the children. But you said, I will surely do you good and make you your offspring as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude. It's doing great. Doing great. But there's a few problems here. Right? He does understand his predicament. He knows that he's in trouble. If Esau attacks him at this point, it's not going to be him alone. He could lose everything. Now he has 2 wives. Well, let's just say he has 4 wives now, because he married the 2 girls, and then the father-in-law gave him, 4 for the price of 2, right? He got the servants too. And now Uncle Jake has about 12 kids. So if Esau attacks him now, he's got a lot to lose. Okay? The wives, 4 wives, and 12 kids. The only child that hasn't been born yet is Benjamin. Okay? So there are 11 boys and 1 girl, Dinah, I believe. So everything that he acquired from Laban over the course of 20 years now at stake. And he could lose this battle with his brother. Yes, he could lose everything in this battle. So he needs help desperately, like we all do. We need help. And we all do come to that point in life when we really need help. All tricks are not working. God, it's either you help me or everything is bad. But here we see Jacob remembering the promises of God. It's fear mixed with faith. He's afraid of Esau, his brother, legitimately so. But he also remembers the promises of God. And I wonder, how can you remember the promises of God? How can you want to rely on the promises of God at the same time that you are afraid? Here's what's going on. Jacob has learned, he kind of has a good relationship with God. At least he knows how to approach God when trouble comes. He knows how to do that. He knows to believe in God. He knows God is faithful. He can trust in God. But he's having problems relating to his fellow human beings. Yeah. And I want to say that having a good relationship with God is not a substitute for having a good relationship with people, and vice versa. And having a good relationship with people, being a nice guy, is not a substitute to having a good relationship with God. It is not one or the other. It is both. Right? And that's why the God commands us. It says, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, and your soul. It doesn't stop there. And you're going to love your neighbor as yourself. It's not one or the other. It is both. By the way, he says the first one is the greatest commandment, and these are actually the 2 greatest commandments. Right? So how can you say, how can we say, I love God, but I don't love the people. I don't see God, but I love him. But I don't love the people that I'm hanging out with. I see them every day. I don't love them. I don't relate well to them. So like Jacob, maybe we have learned to approach God and receive his forgiveness, and, but we're having a hard time apologizing to people. It's hard. I got to tell you that. If you're married, you understand what I'm saying. Right? You heard your wife, but, man, we're waiting. Who's going to say I'm sorry first? Isn't that how it works? Even when we are Christians. Yeah. You did something you weren't supposed to do. You said something you weren't supposed to say. But you can't man up enough or woman up enough and say, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. It's like, let's wait for who's going to say sorry first. We would like to go and pray. That's easy. Okay, God, I messed up, God. But God is saying, I hear you, but if you remember that somebody has something against you, what should you do? You can hold your offering, keep your offering over there, go to the person and reconcile with them first. And then you can come back and give your offering. That's what he says. God is not in a hurry to receive what you got. Right? He's not. He says, take care of the human relationship first. It's important to me. Then you can come and we can interact. When I say this, I'm guilty too, so you understand. But here's the problem, that Jacob, even though he's calling Esau Lord and Master and everything, he's doing all of that, but is he really focusing on a genuine restoration of the relationship? No. By far, no. He is not. Because what is he doing? He's still thinking about appeasing Esau with gifts, with stuff. I'm going to give you stuff. I know you like stuff. You sold your birthright for porridge. I mean, you're going to jump at cows and everything. So here, send him some stuff. Wow. That's why he divides up the animals and, where Esau sees those, he's going to be happy. He's just going to take them and forget about the past. Wow. We read a passage here from verse 17. He instructed the first, when Esau, my brother, meets you and asks you, to whom do you belong? Where are you going? And whose are these ahead of you? Then you shall say, they belong to your servant Jacob. They are a present sent to my lord Esau. And moreover, he is behind us. He likewise instructed the second and the third, and all who followed the droves. You shall say the same thing to Esau when you find him. And you shall say, moreover, your servant Jacob is behind us. For he thought, I may appease him with the present that goes ahead of me. And afterward, I shall see his face. I'm going to make him happy. Give him a bribe. Give him a little something. Give him a little treat to keep him happy, so that by the time he sees me, he will have been really calm, no problem. He will have forgotten everything I did in the past. We got to learn this. Material stuff don't resolve real human problems. Material stuff does not resolve real human problems. You get mad, your wife is mad at you, go buy her a car, or buy a flower or something, just something you do. Yeah, she likes flowers a lot. I'm going to go buy her a flower. Or he likes this food. I'm going to make him this food. If that person is satisfied with material stuff, they're not serious. See, Jacob was naive here. He still was thinking that the past, those old tricks will still work. He was still thinking that bribery would remedy his hurt, the deep hurt that Esau is feeling. He's naive. Yes, it's true that in the past Esau accepted this mess of porridge and stuff like that, but Esau seems to have learned. He's grown. He's had some really bad experiences, and he's grown somewhat. Right? Anytime we hurt somebody by depriving them of material, emotional, or social benefits of any kind, anytime we do that, whatever we did all of a sudden becomes greater than whatever we deprived them. Now it becomes a relational problem. Now it becomes a trust problem. It is no longer just, oh, you took away this thing that belongs to me. No, you just violated something on the inside of me. Because whether we like it or not, all of us right here, because we have some kind of relationship, we have an unwritten psychological contract. I have an unwritten psychological contract with her. I don't know when last I looked at the marriage license. And I don't wear a ring either. But whether I wear the ring or I look at the marriage contract or not, there's an unwritten psychological contract between us. It is, you've got my back and I've got your back. Anytime I do something that hurts her, somehow I violate to a certain degree that expectation that I got her back. It is a breach of trust. It is a violation. People have a right to feel violated. And what they need is a genuine reassurance of, hey, I'm going to make repairs. I'm not going to be this way. I'm going to change. And by the way, I acknowledge that I hurt you. I acknowledge that, you have a right to feel the way you do. And I'm going to demonstrate to them that I have this desire to mend the broken hedges. So Jacob is here. He's at the end of his rope, but he's not trying to deal with the issue the right way. He's still stuck on doing material stuff. He can't come up with any solution. But God knew that Jacob was in this dilemma and he couldn't get himself out of it. It was a real problem. The problem with his older brother was a real problem. But here's what God is going to do. God is saying, Jacob, the real issue, though, is not the problem you have with Esau. That's not the real problem. The real problem is the underlying problem, the underlying greed that makes you act the same way wherever you are. So I need to deal with that. The underlying pride that is in you, the underlying greed, the underlying, thinking process that makes you think it's okay. So long as I succeed, it doesn't matter who I step on. So just appeasing Esau is not going to solve the problem. Something greater, something deeper, something more fundamental needs to happen. Because what happens is, Jacob, when you were with Esau, you did that to him. When you went over to Laban, you had problems with Laban too. And if we expose you to anyone else, you're going to have problems with them too. So it's not Esau or Laban or anyone. Jacob, there is something inside of you. I say this a lot to students. I say, a student this week, he was like, what are you doing outside? Oh, man, that teacher kicked me out of class. I said, what happened? Oh, he just acting like blah, 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 whatever he said. I said, okay. Is he the first teacher that ever did that? Any other teacher ever kicked you out of class? I don't know what he's doing. He's just acting like, okay. We talked and talked and talked, and after about an hour after that, he's in another class, and they kicked him out too. I said, what are you doing outside? I said, what are you doing? Oh, man, he's just acting like blah, blah, blah. I said, wait a minute. You said the same thing about the other teacher earlier. That one kicked you out. This one kicked you out, and other teachers kicked you out in the past. Aren't you figuring it out? That the real problem is the guy in the mirror. The person you see in the mirror when you stand there, that's the real problem. Like Billy the goat. The male goat. He says his smelling problem is not on the skin. I don't know if you've been around in Billy before. He says, my smelling problem is not on the skin. If we were on the skin, all the rain that has fallen on me would have washed that out. My smelling problem is from deep inside. It's rooted in my nature. Anyway, you're supposed to laugh about that. Anyway, just saying. So Jacob needs something here, and he's going to need to get along with God, and that's where the change is going to happen. So now he sent everyone away, sent them all away, and he's alone. He's going to pass the night, including his wives. He sent them all across, wives and children, and he's alone in this place, trying to be safe. Everyone that belonged to him, everything that belonged to him. It's like he understood. Real change is not going to happen. Real transformation is not going to happen until Jacob comes face to face with God, until he experiences a spiritual transformation. We're trying to change on the outward. We're trying to change the stuff we do, but the problem is the real issue. What causes us to do what we do is on the inside. There's got to be a real spiritual, deep spiritual transformation that will help us to now be able to change our behavior on the outside. And as you know, nothing changes us quite like meeting God when we're alone with him. In verse 24, it says, and Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the breaking of the day. Wow, that was some wrestling. A man wrestled with Jacob. When the man saw that he did not prevail against Jacob, he touched his hip socket. And Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with this man. You know, Jacob has been wrestling for a long time, right? He's been wrestling with people and getting away with it. He's winning the battles. Unfortunately, though, he's been losing the war with people. But now, it's time for Jacob to engage in a force, in a person that's greater than him, like all of us need to do. It's going to come out okay. Yes, Jacob will come out okay. But this is one battle that will so change him, he will never forget it. Be a turning point in his life. Jacob has seen the Lord before. Remember when he saw the ladder, he saw angels going up and down, and he saw the Lord up there, right? And we say that that ladder is Jesus Christ connecting the world, the earth to heaven. So we said last week, he's seen God from afar, right? Now it is time for Jacob to engage with God himself, engage with the Lord in this wrestling match that's going to transform his life. And we know that so far Jacob has demonstrated his strong will, you know, his tenacity. When Jacob needs something, he's going to fight for it, he's going to labor for it and get it. And seriously, this guy labored for his 2 wives for 14 years. He just worked for no pay. So he could get 2 wives. You know, he wanted 1, but he ended up with 2 and actually 4, right? So when Jacob is committed to a goal, he's going to wrestle. So in this wrestling match here, Jacob is not giving up. He's wrestling. We don't quite know how this wrestling happened. Was it a physical wrestling? Seems like it was physical because his thing got put out of joint. Okay? But it does represent something. Jacob is not letting go. Just as you and I should not let go. And I can tell you, wrestling with God has a lot of blessings to go with it. Right? Has a lot of blessings. But God is not going to let you go the same. God is going to deal with more than Esau in Jacob's life. Okay? You might have to put your hip joint out of joint. It's a blessing. So you remember. So you never forget the encounter. Right? But that's not all. Jacob, all this time, just like you, have been in need of this deep level of transformation. So you can move on. So you can go on. Something needed to happen. God did it. That the hip being out of joint represents. It symbolizes this deep transformation that Jacob is going to have. Jacob, you're not going to be the same ever. You're not going to wrestle the way you used to wrestle before, where you always won every fight, so to say, at the expense of others. See, all along, Jacob needed this, but he couldn't get it because he was on the run. He was running. There was too much activity around him, too many people around him. Okay, he was always trying to trick this person, trick that person, win this one, win that. So he never had a chance to get in touch with his inner self, get in touch with God who wants to transform him. You and I so desperately need that time alone with God, a time, occasional a time alone with God, a time to think, a time to reflect, a time to just make some resolves about our lives and think about where we're going, where we've been, and all of that. We need that so that God will give us a fresh touch, so that God will reach out to us again, even if it means that a joint gets out of place. And Jacob is still not stopping. He's going to ask God for something. Yes, Jacob is going to ask God for something. And that's a question for you and for me. When you encounter God, and I believe you're encountering God every day, are you asking Him for great things, for real big stuff? Or are you just letting Him walk by, pass by? Most of the people that got their miracles in the Bible, there were people who interrupted God. They interrupted Jesus Christ. Jesus was on his way to go do his own thing, but they interrupted him. They cried out. These are the people that made a decision that really uncanny decision. Is like, nobody ever does a thing like that. The woman with the issue of blood interrupted Jesus Christ. Jesus was going somewhere to do something. But this woman made a decision on that. They says, I'm going to get something. Jesus is in town. He doesn't come by every day. Today is my day. I'm going to get something. This thing that has plagued me for 12 years, man, I've heard about this Jesus, and I need some help. And Jesus healed him. Jesus didn't plan to do it that day. He knew what was going to happen. He wasn't on his agenda, so to say. I mean, obvious agenda. Right? But this lady interrupted Jesus by doing something that she wasn't supposed to do. Blind Bartimaeus heard that Jesus was passing by. Jesus was going by this place, and he says, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. He yelled out. And people were saying, you can't do that. You can't yell at him like that. Don't make so much noise. It's not nice to do that. Son of David, help me out. Amen. That's what she did. That's what he did. And the Canaanite woman saw Jesus Christ going along with his disciples. He says, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on my daughter. Interrupted Jesus. Got engaged in a conversation with Jesus. It wasn't working out too well, but she persisted. The disciples said, send this lady away. She's disturbing us. She's just following us around and shouting at us. Send her away. Really? She says, Jesus, Son of David, help me out. And Jesus turned around to her and says, hey, lady, I didn't come for people like you. I only came for the Israelites. I did not come for people that talk like you, that look like you. I didn't come for them. I only came for the lost sheep of Israel. Son of David, help me out. I didn't come for dogs like you, basically. He says, even dogs eat the stuff that fall from the master's table. And Jesus said, I have never seen this kind of faith ever in Israel. Because she won't let go. She wasn't being nice and civil and, no, it's like, you got to help me. This is my day with you. I probably haven't seen you this close before, and I know you do good to people. Help me. And Jacob says, the angel says to Jacob, you got to let me go. It's daylight. I got to go. Jacob says one thing. I will not let you go unless you bless me. Do we have that kind of attitude with God? God, I'm not going to let you go. This is bothering me. Whatever it is in your life that's bugging you so much, it's been there for years or whatever. God, it's time to bless me. I'm not going to let you go until you bless me. I prayed about it yesterday. I'm praying about it today. I will still pray about it tomorrow. I will not let go until you bless me. And God, I know time here, said, okay, what's your name? Real change is going to happen. I know we did the physical one. Get your joint, your hip out of joint. But something more fundamental is going to happen now. What's your name? Jacob? Oh, that's your name? Deceiver? Manipulator? Supplanter? You take stuff that doesn't belong to you by playing tricks? Your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel. For you have striven with God and with men and have prevailed. God's greatest blessing to all of us is a change of our identity. When God encounters us, and He's done that for all of us, He changes our name, He changes our identity to mark the end of the old self and the beginning of the new self, to mark the end of the old reputation, to mark the end of the old self-concept that you had, the way you used to look at yourself, that's associated with the past. He changes that by giving us a new name. A new name is the beginning of a new self, right? The new name reflects the new reputation that God wants you to have. It reflects the new purpose that God has for you. That's why He changes our name, a new name that helps us to see ourselves in light of what God thinks about us. Change Abraham to Abraham, change Sarai to Sarah, change Simon to Peter. And Paul changes his own name from Saul to Paul. And Jesus has changed your name. He changed your name from sinner to righteousness of God. Yes. He's changed your name to from rejected to the accepted in the beloved. Yes, God changes our name. Because Jacob's old name, the reputation embedded in that name, wasn't good enough. That did not reflect the purpose that God had for him. He needed to change his name. He needed to change his name from just being an individual to becoming a nation. Because Israel is the nation that God is, God's own nation. So Jacob, you're no longer going to be this individual running around and doing whatever you want to do. Now I'm going to make you a nation, my nation, that's going to reflect my purpose in the world. That's going to carry my message to the world. Yes, it is true that you might have your hip put out of joint. You might limp after that, as Jacob did at the end of this story. He was limping because hip was out of joint. But it's always a new day after you meet with God. Because at the end of it, in verse 31, it says, the sun rose upon him as he passed Penuel, limping because of his hip. It's a new day. After you've met with God, it's a new day. He didn't die, and he was happy that he did not die. Jacob did not die. He thought he was going to die after meeting with God. But it was a new day for him. And he says, for I have seen the Lord, but I have been delivered. Delivered from himself, delivered from his past, delivered from all the things that held him down, given the freedom to now live. And I pray today that a sunshine, God's sunshine, may rise and your new day begin as you encounter the Lord face to face. May He deliver you from the shackles of your past. The things in your past that try to hold you down, the thoughts that try to hold you down, even though physically everything looks good, but the thoughts of the past that try to hold you down, may the Lord free you from that today, so that you will thrive today, so that you can be the blessing that He's called you to be. In Jesus' name. And that's what this represents. Okay? That's what communion represents. The victory happened in the past. God has already won the victory for me. But every week, we get to do this, to remember that the God who won the victory for us in the past, the God who set us free in the past, is always here to help us to enjoy the sense of freedom that He has already won for us. So this morning, I want you to come with a sense of freedom, the sense of liberation. You may come limping, but know that it's a new day, that the sunshine of God is shining, is rising upon you, that his face will shine upon you there today. Father, we want to thank you so much for your grace. We thank you for your love. We thank you for your blessing. Thank you for all that you've done for us to change us, to make us no longer what we used to be in the past, but to give us a new name, a new nature. We bless you, Lord God. We just worship you today. May your name be glorified in every way. May we be free from whatever it is in the past that's dragging us down. May we have the courage to address the issue, to deal with it, to not be held down by it, but to overcome it and be free. Lord, thank you for Jesus Christ who died for us, allowed his body to be beaten for us, allowed his blood to be shed on our behalf, who died and whom you raised again on the third day. We bless your name. Thank you so much, God, for what you've done for us. In Jesus' name we pray.